The trial, FTC v. Meta, has begun. And the things we're starting to learn are terrifying and disturbing. In this report from Bloomberg back in May 6th, it's not been that long, Instagram suggested groomers connect with minors. That's right. I'm going to read that for you again. Instagram suggested groomers connect with minors, the FTC says. Instagram's automated software systems recommended that child groomers connect with minors on the app, making it easier for them to find victims, according to a 2019 internal document presented in court by the FTC. The Meta Platforms Inc. report noted that minors made up 27% of the follow recommendations that the social media app surfaced to groomers, a term the company used to refer to accounts they identified as exhibiting predatory behavior toward children. Over 3 months that year, the company had found that 2 million accounts held by minors had been recommended to groomers. I kid you not. They use those words. The company found that 7% of Instagram follow recommendations made to all adults were minors. The report, titled Inappropriate Interactions with Children on Instagram, was shared among company executives in June of 2019. It was presented in federal court on Tuesday as part of FTC's antitrust lawsuit against Meta. You know what's really messed up, man? There are accounts on Instagram where it's like 10-year-old girls, and they put them in bathing suits and have them stand and move around, and they make these videos as if these are adult influencers. I'll put it that way. It is disgusting, and Facebook knew it was happening the whole time. The report also included an analysis of 3.7 million user reports flagging inappropriate comments to the company. Meta, which was called Facebook at the time, found that about 1/3 of those reports came from minors. Of the minors who reported inappropriate comment, 54% were reporting an adult. Earlier in the trial, the FTC offered evidence that Meta Chief Executive Officer Mark Zuckerberg, when presented with safety issues on Instagram, chose not to offer enough resources to the app to help it address the risk to users. After seeing the 2019 data, U.S. District Judge James Boasberg seriously asked the FTC's lawyers to speed things along. I cannot believe this. Of all the judges, it's Boasberg. And he's saying, yeah, FTC, come on, move along. Amazing. Out of context and years-old documents about acquisitions that were reviewed by the FTC more than a decade ago will not obscure the realities of the competition we face to overcome the FTC's weak case, a Meta spokesperson said in a statement. The company added that it has long invested in child safety efforts and in 2018 began to work to restrict recommendations for potentially suspicious adults and encourage the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to expand its reporting process to include additional grooming situations it noticed. Zuckerberg was on Rogan recently, and, nobody cared. When Joe Rogan had Jack Dorsey on, this was, I think, in 2019, Joe got massively thumbs down. And a lot of people were upset. They were upset because Joe was talking to Jack at a time when people were being censored en masse, and Joe didn't know the story had happened. This is how I end up getting on his podcast. I made a video about it. It got auto-flagged for copyright for using an image from his podcast. I DM'd him being like, can you get your guys to remove this? I guess Joe watched it and then hit me up and was like, bro, come on the show. Simple version of the story. We actually talked for a little bit. I said, hey, man, I'm never going to ask you to come on. Just, you can invite me when you want to invite me. He calls me back and says, bro, can you come on in 2 days? And I was like, oh, yes, thank you. Like, this would be amazing. And after that interview, he invited me to come on with Jack to have that debate. It's incredible. The one thing that happens now, Joe had on Mark Zuckerberg, and Zuckerberg said things like, oh, I made a mistake, but he largely didn't get flagged the same way he did with Jack Dorsey. And I think for that reason, Joe is unaware of what actually Mark Zuckerberg has been doing and why he's a bad guy. He's a bad guy. I give him some leeway because he's done some good things, but I largely think he is doing harm, and he's just trying to obfuscate. We invited Mark Zuckerberg to come on Timcast IRL. He declined. His people declined for him. And I think the reason is he knows we're going to hold him to the fire. Before we invited him on, I explicitly addressed his appearance on Joe Rogan, saying, Mark did not answer to the backdoors that Facebook had for the feds to go in and flag content. He did not answer for the Eric Charamella scandal, where on YouTube, maybe this video won't see the light of day, and Facebook, simply saying the name in any context resulted in your content being taken down. And I want those answers. I think any reasonable person would. But it's different times, man. It's different times. For that reason, I think most people didn't care. Joe didn't get massive thumbs downs. He didn't get a hate campaign or anything. He should not, right? When he had Jack Dorsey on, I was surprised people were attacking him the way we were. I'm like, dude, he's just a comedian. I'm having a conversation with the guy. But without that cultural outrage, Joe's not going to address Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg's not going to be held to these standards. No one's going to ask these questions. Sure, I can mention censorship, feds, Charamella, CIA, fine. But what about this question? That Meta knew, at the time it was Facebook, they knew they were suggesting groomers to minors. They were going to children and saying, hey, follow this guy, an adult who wants to abuse children. You know, I will tell you this, based on the amount of users they have, I'm willing to bet there is a greater than zero chance, probably a decent one, that some of these groomers were able to exploit the minors, meaning the minors actually connected with them, were exploited by these adults, met up in person. When's someone going to ask that question to Mark Zuckerberg? They're going to mention that the FTC surfaced more emails and documents that supported, I should go back. Earlier in the trial, Systrom argued Zuckerberg starved Instagram of resources in part because he felt threatened by the app's success and worried it would cannibalize the social network he founded, Facebook. Zuckerberg is one of the, I got to say this. Smart guy, myopic. Brother, you have destroyed Facebook. You did. You did it. Okay? Instagram is bigger than Facebook. It just is. Now, the boomers, I'm not saying to rag on boomers. I'm saying boomers largely use Facebook. Instagram, not so much. And it's because of the policies you put in place to destroy what people truly cared about. Cry more. They're going to mention the FTC surfaced more emails to that theory. In 2018, Adam Mosseri, senior Meta product executive, who would take the job to lead Instagram later that year, asked Rosen for an honest assessment of Instagram's integrity work. Rosen warned at the time that Instagram was behind in terms of fighting harmful content, including child exploitation and terrorism. Rosen suggested that this posed a risk, particularly to the platform's younger audiences, and that he was seeking to expand aggressively into addressing these issues. The FTC painted a portrait of a company reluctant to do so over several years. In a different exchange from February 2019, Rosen wrote in an email that he relayed his concerns that Instagram was being underfunded to Zuckerberg during a planning meeting about increasing company headcount. After speaking with Zuckerberg, Rosen concluded the resource allocation was deliberate. Zuckerberg thought Instagram had another year or two to catch up to Facebook and didn't think the app needed as many resources. I think we are not sure that's the case anymore. An internal presentation titled Instagram Wellbeing H1 2019, a planning document for the first half, acknowledged that Instagram's integrity team was thin relative to the scope and importance of the work. Given resource limitations, we will not be doing major proactive work in areas like harassment, financial scams, credible threats of violence, impersonation, prostitution, sexual solicitation, and forms of child exploitation, the presentation said. This is disgusting. It is disgusting. And I don't think X is going to be any better, to be honest. But it is absolutely disgusting. Zuckerberg's not answered for these. Sure, they're in court. He's not going to go on any podcast. He went on Theo Von, of course. He didn't get grilled on the evil things his company has done. I don't think the guy is like a sociopathic murderer or anything like that. I think he is, to a certain degree, sociopathic. I don't want to say he's a sociopath. Is what I'm trying to say. He's just callous. He doesn't care. He is building a machine, and he's viewing this as numbers, not as the people being harmed. I'd like to see someone challenge him, and he won't do it on my platform because he knows we will hold him to those flames. I just hope that anybody in the future, Lex, Theo, Joe, they call him out on these things. I'll leave it there. Smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all in the next segment.